Hey everybody, welcome. Good to see you all. Well, good to see you two, because
Yeah.
that's all I can see is you two. But I know there are, I know there's a number of people watching live. Thank you, Ian. Welcome from our one of our brothers from up north, from the land northward. Thank you for being here. Etain, thank you as well. Again, welcome to the next installment, the first episode of 2023 for the Justice Revolution. I'm your host, James the Patriot. I've got with me my fellow co-host, Erica. Say hello, Erica.
Hey.
And I've got my producer and co-host, Justice. Say hello, Justice.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone.
Awesome. So we got a lot to talk about today. Last week, we right before the end of the year, we ran an episode. We were talking about jurisdiction, how the court gets it, what it is. So I'm going to do a quick refresher on that. I've had some conversations with some folks this week that are being railroaded in these administrative courts, and they feel like they have no remedy. And the reality is they don't, as long as they're being railroaded through those courts. So we got a lot to cover. We're going to talk about, what it is and so on and so forth. So just a quick refresher. Well, actually, before I jump into that, Erica, it's been a while since we had you. You want to give us an update on what's been going on with you? I know you've been under the weather, had some other things you've been working on.
Yeah, there's kind of, I'm just coming out of what, some people call it cold and flu season. I call it the end of the year detox. The body's just shedding everything it doesn't need. So, yeah, I'm working with my youngest son on a couple of projects. We're trying to reach the age groups of 13 to 18-year-olds, just learning about their liberties. And I think that's really the future is really key in getting the kids. So he wants to teach the class. So that'll be really fun to do the course, see a little 13-year-old teaching about this stuff that we're all just kind of learning new together. Mm-hmm. So he would like to teach it. He feels that passionate about it. So I'm helping him with that.
That's great.
That is great. That's awesome. That's great to see.
Yeah.
So, and Justice, you were feeling under the weather as well. You want to give everybody an update on where you are, how you're doing now?
Just a week or two behind Erica. A week before Christmas, I just got hit and went down, but I did all my natural things and recuperated.
Good.
I did call Erica at one point. For those of you who don't know, Erica is an amazing critical care nurse, but also errs on the natural side of things and using what God's given us for healing as well. And at one point, I had this horrible, massive pain in my side. Do I have to go to the hospital? What's happening? But it passed. But anyway, it's just that time of year. Everybody's. It's not like it hasn't been around.
I don't remember ever the last 2 years that I've had my end of the year detox. I don't remember it being this bad. I don't know. It just seems like I'm usually able to bounce back really quickly, but maybe it's just because I'm getting older, or maybe they're poisoning us with 5G and GMOs. I don't know. I blame 5G for everything.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, those what are they? Not sound waves, but electromagnetic waves. Is that what those are?
EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. Yeah.
Yeah, those EMFs. I mean, they absolutely can. They can do things that
give you low level radiation and make you feel like all the symptoms of what they describe as.
Radiation poisoning is indicative to your lungs. Absolutely. I am going to have a specialist on, Dr. Richard Neal, here soon. We've been chatting. It'll be on the Crashing Justice channel, but for those of you about melatonin and how powerful it is to combat radiation, which Erica and I both took throughout our deal. So
I did. I took whole handfuls.
Yes, amazing molecule. Yeah. But anyway, so we're good. We're good. It's normal to get sick and detox your body. And, if you have the right stuff in your home, you can get through it just fine and not panic. So
awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. What about you, James? You're still no detoxing for you.
Nope. I'm good. Yeah. So I'm actually I'm doing really well. Family's well. I mean, gosh, we just December's a crazy month for me and my family. 4 of my 5 kids have birthdays this month, obviously Christmas. So how we even make it through December without the use of mind-altering drugs is beyond me. So God bless my wife. She keeps us all in check. She keeps everybody going where we should. So I'm glad I have her, and I'm glad she's there. So
great.
But awesome. Well, so as we mentioned, this is a follow-up episode from our final episode of 2022. We talked about jurisdiction. There's a lot of I want to dispel some myths that are typically associated with the patriot movement. You'll see if you jump into Telegram, you'll see a lot of people respond to these as patriot mythology, wherein individuals who are being dragged into an administrative court. So let's just say it's a traffic court or a minor misdemeanor for, let's say you're cited for trespassing or something of that nature. And those courts are notorious for steamrolling men and women of this republic. It's because it's what they do. It's all they've been doing for the last 30, 40, 50 years, ever since the bar took over our legal system back in the late 1870s. So you hear a lot of these individuals talking about, well, hey, if you receive something in the mail and it's got your name in all caps, well, that's not you. That's your straw man. That's somebody else, right? And so you'll hear people say what you need to do is write on there, refuse to accept or whatever, and send it back in the mail. You guys have heard this, right, Erica? Justice?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You guys have heard all about this. So so the problem with that is it's going to do nothing. They're going to keep coming after you. They're going to unlawfully issue a warrant for your arrest. I say it's unlawful because it is. But when they issue that warrant, the individuals who are serving the warrant have no clue if it's unlawful or not. They're just doing their job. Never mind, their job is violating all sorts of constitutional provisions and your protected rights. So that's the first thing I want to dispel is the court does not get jurisdiction over you by the way that your name is styled. Okay, make that very clear. The second thing I want to talk about is you'll hear individuals say, well, when I walk into a courtroom and I see a flag and it's got the gold fringe around it, I know I'm in maritime jurisdiction or I'm in admiralty jurisdiction, and they don't have jurisdiction over me. So the purpose or the reason why I'm telling you this is I'm not telling you this to disappoint or discourage you. I'm telling you this because I want to give you and the people that I work with, I want to give you the methods for you to win. I want you to win, okay? I want you to be able to take these people for what they're worth, because this madness won't stop until we do. That's just the sad reality of the world that we live in, is these administrative courts are going to continue to railroad us. They're going to continue to extort money from us until we start to fight back. So then the question comes, well, how do we fight back? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. I want to follow up again on a couple of main things that we pointed out. So the biggest issue, well, let me back up. And real quick, do either of you guys have any questions about what I just said?
Well, you and I have a friend in common who's got a bench warrant out for her after she did all this paperwork. I call it expatriating, but expatriating is a different technical thing. But you basically take yourself away from becoming a U.S. citizen, which takes away certain rights, judicial rights as well. And even if it's true, the judicial system is so corrupt right now, they're not even abiding by the laws on the book.
Yeah.
And now you want to drag stuff in that, even if it's true, they're going to laugh you out of court. There's no way to for you to stand up and prove it or fight back. Now, maybe some people have had some success with some things, but in the track record you're following, and Dr. Graves and Alphonse and Brett, and is using our existing system, is having far much more success because it's already there in black and white. And we're not talking about common law, because common law is a very valid and very constitutional part of our government. We're talking about changing your status. So my opinion is it's just you're sweeping back the ocean with a broom at this point. And if you're stuck having to go into the judicial courts, I keep asking people when they come into the chat, where is your proof? And the only proof that most people come up with is an infraction with a police officer on the side of the road. I've talked myself out of plenty of tickets too. So that's really not proof. It's proof about being held captive by the court and how you can get out of it, or you can use what they have against them as well. So I've not gone down the rabbit hole. It's something I looked at, and I decided that was not where I was going personally, but I do love common law, and that's what I do continue to learn about. But you are talking about state nationalism and the citizen nonsense thing, right?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a reason why these people are doing what they're doing, because they're seeing the system the way that it's done now. They've either been railroaded or they've seen it and they're thinking, this is my only way to get myself out of there. I totally get that. Okay. I totally get that. But we're going to review a case today that completely dispels that myth, and it's still relevant today. So,
and I have read about people that, play these games and sign their bills as though and then 5 years later they're in jail, or they're being, they'll let you do it for up to, I think, 7 years or something. Yeah.
You can get away for it for a while, but then, you'll end up, again, they're going to throw the book at you.
That's the scary part.
Yeah.
And I've read that numerous times. So
we're going to talk about a couple of things.
Wait, let's see what Erica has to say.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Erica.
Yeah, I have a lot of really big questions about this whole thing, because if you've studied the state national stuff, which I'm guessing that people here have, because, it's valid stuff. Like my friends who are state nationals, they know more about the law than pretty much anybody. It's part of the process of becoming a state national, is learning all the information that you have to be able to stand on your rights. And for me, the thing that appeals about it, the thing that appeals to me about it the most, is coming to this realization that I'm being presumed to be thought of as a slave subject. And I don't want to be that. I'm much more than that. And I would like to assert myself as that. And so that's where it is for me. I'm not looking to get anything out of it. I'm not looking to access any trusts or, go into the courtrooms. I don't commit any crimes. Not really. I'm not hurting anybody. I would just like to be free to, among the common law, to live freely and do whatever the heck I want, as long as I'm not hurting anyone or stealing from their liberty, pursuits of happiness, or whatever. So that's like, there's all these remedies that are coming up in the freedom communities trying to make it, to fix that. And that's what I would like to set the record straight on. And if that means canceling contracts that make it seem like I'm part of the club where they can do this stuff to me, then it sounds pretty valid,
So here's my beef with that. My beef is if they deceived us and committed fraud and stole your identity and are trading it on the stock market or whatever they're doing, it's not up to us to undo that. It's up to us to hold them accountable for fraud. Because if they stole our identity and they're trading it on the stock market or whatever the birth certificate spiel is, or any of that, without our knowing it, that's identity theft and that's fraud.
Well,
so
why
do we have to jump through hoops to claim something different other than the sovereign people that our founding fathers said we were? Well, what we need to do is hold them accountable for fraud. Find the proof and take it to court and hold them accountable for fraud.
Yeah.
Well,
For
then
it informs you.
it all starts bleeding into trust law at that point. That's how they would answer that, is that, a trust can be created on your behalf with you as the beneficiary and you not know anything about it.
That's fraud.
Well, not in trust law. You can create any kind of trust you want and make someone the beneficiary for it.
Without their knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know anything about trust law, so I'm not getting into that. But
yeah, that's where it appeals. And the thing that really bothers me is how everyone speaks so negatively about the American state nationals who are trying to they're studying the law. They're studying it harder than anyone I know. And, so it's just like to discount this whole group of people who are trying so hard to find remedy, and for them to be called stupid and, patriot mythologies. And, it just, there's so much of it that's valid that gets thrown out with the other arguments that, that's where I stand on it. You asked my opinion, but I'm just open. Again, I'm just trying to learn. So whatever's going to be the most beneficial in helping us to be free.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, I'm glad we're having this discussion. At the end of the day, we all just want to be left the freaking crap alone.
Yes.
Leave me alone. Okay. Right. I want to live my life. I'm not hurting anyone else. I'm not infringing on anyone else's rights. Stay out of my business.
Right. And don't take half of my earnings in the name of taxes. And don't pull me over because I'm not wearing a seatbelt. And, whatever other little things.
So I'm glad we're having this, because what I'm gonna teach you today are ways you can do this without getting yourself into trouble by going through that method. Again, I looked at it too. I looked at the whole state national thing. I was following Anna Von Wright's her website, her writings, looking at everything she was doing. And I'm something just didn't quite sit right with me. I'm like sitting here going, wait a second. I mean, why do I have to change anything? I didn't do anything. No, I mean, where is this coming from? And I couldn't quite put two and two together until what I realized is that the government is treating every one of us like we are members of their corporation.
Right.
We are employees of the government. They have taken the man and the woman, the sovereign man and woman, they've set them over here, and they said, you guys just sit there for a minute and we're going to leave you alone, so to speak. And they're coming, but then over here is your other capacity, right? Because this goes back to when you sue someone, they can be sued in their individual capacity and in their official capacity. It's no different. So the state, either the municipality where you live, the county where you live, or the state where you live, or even the federal government for that matter, they're all treating you as if you are an employee and you are subject to the terms and conditions that they prescribe, which they call statutes, codes, and they call laws. It's no different than if McDonald's was going to try and prosecute you for a crime as if you were an employee of McDonald's. That's the easiest way to look at it. Does that make sense?
Right. That was one of the biggest arguments when the whole, this came down, because they were trying to impose their policies and procedures on their patrons and customers, and the patrons and customers that knew law would stand up and say, your policies only apply to your employees.
Yeah. I had this argument. I travel quite a bit for my job. I think I've explained that to both of you. I was trying to check into a hotel, and the guy said, well, it's our policy that you wear a face diaper. And I said, I don't care what your policy is. You can chew it up and shove it up your what. Your policy means nothing to me.
Right.
Well, I'm going to call the police. Be my freaking guest. I was happy to file a criminal complaint against you. As soon as I said that, he's like, okay, sir, here's your room card. And he left me alone.
Right.
You have to throw this back in their face. But anyway, let's get back to what we're talking about here with the problem that is today is that we're all being treated as if we're members and employees of the corporation. So when you look at the federal constitution, you look at your state constitutions, you're going to find in your Declaration of Rights something along the lines of all political power is inherent in the people. And the only power the government has are powers that we, the people, have delegated to them. Make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's supposed to be. Okay.
Right. We're already off the mark on that, but that's how it's supposed to be. Right.
That's exactly. We're way off the mark on that. They've come to us and said, "Oh no, we're the big powerful government. We can do whatever we want." No.
No, you can't.
Okay. No, you cannot. Okay. The way it's supposed to be, we the people are sovereigns. We hold all the power. We are akin to a king or queen for that matter. Our rights do not come from the government. They come from our creator, from God. And if we don't stand up and assert those rights, then they're just going to walk all over us, which is what they do.
Okay.
So now let's talk about how this is broken down. Last week we talked about the jurisdiction. Okay, you're being dragged into one of these administrative courts. Where does that court get its jurisdiction to do this crap to you? Well, when we set up our federal government and our state governments, because the federal constitution grants every single state a Republican form of government. So a Republican form of government is 3 separate but equal branches that are designed, and their sole purpose is to protect the liberties and the rights of the people. That's it. Okay, but what happens is when you have corrupt organizations, corrupt people that usurp that power, i.e. the Bar Association, okay, ever since the late 1870s, they have been screwing people over. Corrupt politicians who, when they get into office, have nothing, and now they're worth millions of dollars. I'll give you a great example, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She couldn't even afford rent in New York City. Now she's worth $39 million. Tell me how that's possible.
Corruption. Capital
Right?
C, corruption.
I love that. I love what you just did there, Erica. So that's the problem we have. But what they've also done, the Bar Association has done a great job of going, okay, hey, these courts, now, let me back up a little bit. Under the hierarchy of the judiciary system, all judicial power is vested in a Supreme Court. That Supreme Court has 100% jurisdiction to hear any matter. So we have the United States Supreme Court, which, as I'm sure a lot of you know, they are in conference today discussing whether they're going to hear certain cases. One of those is the Brunson v. Adams case. I've done some extensive research on it. I'm hopeful, but I'm not getting my hopes up, because the problem lies is that it still comes down to a standing issue. It's like, what standing does this individual have to bring these claims? I mean, you've got to be able to prove that you have standing. Somebody harmed you. That's key. Remember that. You have
I
to be
believe
able
he
to
does
prove
have
it.
standing on it.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful.
That's
I'm hopeful that, I mean, the lower courts, they dismissed the case because they said he doesn't have standing. So maybe the Supreme Court will look at it and go, well, wait a second, he does have standing because of this. So
I believe he's citing a Supreme Court law or statute about what they have to do in an election.
Yeah, I mean, again, so it's coming from a different perspective, right? Because you could look at it like, well, hey, I'm coming as a private attorney general on behalf of we the people, right? Would we the people have standing in that matter? Well, yeah. I mean, if we go in and we say this is who we're electing to represent us, and that is being usurped, and I'm not saying that's happening, okay? I don't want to go down that road. YouTube, don't freaking throw me off the platform. That's not what I'm saying here. All I am saying is that if this individual is bringing these claims on behalf as a private attorney general, you might be able to say, yeah, I do have standing to do this. So, but with that in mind, the Supreme Court has ultimate jurisdiction. They can hear anything. So what about all the other courts? What about like your state court? What about your state Supreme Court? What about all these other courts? So these courts are known as courts of inferior jurisdiction. Okay. What that means is that they are granted their jurisdiction. They actually, let me back up. They have no inherent power to do anything. Okay. No inherent power to do anything. A judge sitting behind a desk wearing a black robe cannot say, oh, you know what? I want to go ahead and prosecute Erica today because she combed her hair on the left side and I like it on the right side.
But they do.
Prosecute her.
But they do.
Exactly. They have no inherent power to do anything.
And how do you prove that to them?
So so you have to look, okay, well, how do they get their power? Where does this come from? We talked about there's the 4 legs on the table that Richard Cornforth talks about, right? It's the 4 legs of jurisdiction. You have to have a defendant. You got to have, a plaintiff first, a defendant. That's the first 2. You need to have jurisdiction over the person. So that's called in personam jurisdiction. And then you got to have subject matter jurisdiction. Subject matter jurisdiction is achieved by 2 additional prongs, and both of those prongs must be there. Otherwise, that court does not have subject matter jurisdiction. You guys know what those prongs are, real quick, Erica or Justice?
No, I don't.
Hang on. Let me dig through the database.
Okay.
Give me a hint.
Okay, so one of them is by what authority is the individual who's bringing that matter before the court moving. So it's going to be, is there a statutory authority? Is there a common law authority?
Okay.
What is it? Right? So, for example, let me give you an example. Title 42, 1983. That's a federal statute, right? It is not a common law cause of action. Let me be very clear about that. It is not a common law cause of action. So since it is not a common law cause of action, it's subject to the law of equity. So you've now moved yourself from common law over to statutory law, right? Completely different things. A lot of people get confused. It's like, well, wait a minute. The 7th Amendment says I have a right to a trial by jury in suits at common law. That is correct. But if you're bringing a suit before the court and it has any type of statutory authority, you're waiving that right.
Mm.
You need to know that. Okay? You're waiving that right. But if you had a lawsuit that was strictly in common law and you had a common law causes of action, there's nothing on God's green earth those people can do. Additionally, that amendment says that when that jury trial happens and they adjudicate and say, yes, we find in the plaintiff's favor, it cannot be appealed to any court, not even the Supreme Court. Did you guys know that?
No.
Yeah.
So have any courts done that unlawfully?
Unlawfully? Oh yeah. Basically, they want to finagle. They want to trick people to moving back into the statutory court because there it can be appealed. It can be appealed. It can be appealed. And it's like you never seem to get justice. It just keeps going and going and going. So those are the difficult parts of that. But going back to the subject matter jurisdiction, so the first part is the law, the common law authority, or the statute that is sufficient to invoke the court's jurisdiction, supported by an affidavit, a deposition, or testimony by a competent fact witness, one who has standing. Okay? The courts have said this as much. You must have standing to bring a claim into court. So, let's go back. Who would have standing, Erica? Let's say you're driving down the highway, and Indiana, is it Highway Patrol or State Police in Indiana?
We have state troopers.
Okay, we'll call it Highway Patrol.
Okay.
So a state trooper pulls you over and says, Erica, you were going 75 in a 65. Here's your ticket. Okay. The ticket says you have to pay this or you have to show up to this court. It has summons on there too, right? We're all familiar with this. Who has standing to bring that claim against you?
The town municipality, they say.
Do they?
No, that's what they say.
No one really. I mean, right? Because it was just
who was harmed?
Who have I injured?
Right.
Exactly. Whose rights did you infringe?
Right.
Whose property did you damage because you were speeding?
Right.
Lack of subject matter jurisdiction.
Boom.
Right.
There you go. Okay. We're going to talk about what those types of laws are here in a minute. We touched on it briefly last time, but I want to talk more importantly about lack of subject matter jurisdiction. Okay. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you a document talking about void judgments. Let me know when you guys are able to see this.
I can see it.
Okay. So this is a 4-page document that goes over void judgments. Did it leave?
Nope. Let me get it back in there.
Oh, you're pushing buttons on me again.
Share. Share it again. There's two different settings. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So when a court, and this is any court, people, any court, it doesn't matter if it's one of those justice courts, or here I call them injustice courts because there's no justice being done there. It doesn't matter if it's a superior court, a district court, an appellate court, or even the frickin' Supreme Court of your state, or even the Supreme Court of the United States. When a court does not have all 4 legs of that table, if they're missing any one of those things, that court does not have jurisdiction to adjudicate the matter, and anything they do is a nullity. It's as if it never happened. Unfortunately, it does happen. People are sitting in jail today because of it, or people have lost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars because of it. Okay. So this is what you can do. And this is one of the things that I'm going to do for one of my friends that I'm helping right now. I've got 2 of his cases that we're adjudicating in federal court, but we're also going to file, I haven't told him this, so if he's watching, hey, get ready. We're going to file a petition to have the judgment vacated. We're going to have that judgment voided because it was void. The court had no subject matter jurisdiction. Okay.
Well, you can do that at any point in the case, right? Any point.
You can do that 15 years after a judgment was issued. There is no statute of limitations on void judgments.
Wow.
None. Subject matter jurisdiction can never be waived. Cannot do it. They can try and say, oh, well, you agreed to this plea deal or you did this. Guess what? That's because I thought the court had subject matter jurisdiction, but you failed to prove it up. So the court does not have jurisdiction. Therefore, this is a void judgment. Oh, and remember how I paid you $600? You're going to have to repay me tenfold.
So, James, where does somebody go to find out this about the jurisdiction? Let's just stick to the ticketing, for example, because we know it's multifaceted. But let's say somebody wants to learn about jurisdiction and, the lack of it for traffic infractions, right? And the commercial industry and that whole, where do they go to learn about that?
Where do you learn about jurisdiction?
Well, let's just say somebody, wanted to study about learning in particular. Let's say they speed all the time and they're always getting tickets and they want to learn how to defend themselves in court and get out of this and learn about the jurisdiction and the subject matter jurisdiction. Does it differ for each state? Does each state have its own regulations? Is this a federal thing? So where does someone go to learn?
This, believe it or not, you guys, this is a common law principle. Okay. This goes back to what's going to be really hard for people to understand is what we are going through today is 10 times worse than what our founding fathers went through when they decided to throw off the bands that bound them, i.e. The King of England, and decided to declare their independence. So what we're experiencing today is 10 times as worse than what they were experiencing in colonial times.
Yep.
That's how bad it is. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what state you're in. For one, to answer your question, just stop speeding, you idiot. Okay?
That's besides the point. And it's not me.
Just stop. The speed signs are there. I mean, some people would say, well, those are more like guidelines. Okay, fine. If you want to call it a guideline, whatever, but it's still there. Okay?
Well, let's say it's a cop or a town that likes to dish out tickets because it helps their bottom line, right? We all know
I think, Justice, I know where you're going with. There's one up here in northern Utah where their entire revenue comes from that.
That's my point. So let's say that they're fraudulently collecting money on people with silly little traffic infractions, and you just learned about it, and you say, you know what, I want to learn more. There's no statute of limitations. I want to go back and collect all my money back.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what you're going to do. So and we're going to talk about this, like if you're being prosecuted right now, sometimes I feel like you choose. Do you want to have that fight with the judge that's just going to blow you off and is going to tick you off all the way down the road? Or do you want to, now again, I'm saying it depends, if they're threatening your liberty, if they're threatening with putting you behind bars, that's a different story.
Right.
But if it's something like a traffic infraction or a citation that just has, a class B or C misdemeanor, which has like a fine associated with it is all, go ahead. I mean, if you can pay the fine, and then we'll attack it collaterally. That's the remedy. Okay. But to answer your point, what I would do is, like if I got a ticket and I'm summoned, I would go into court on that day and I'd say, first of all, I'm only here by special appearance. I'm not here by general appearance. Okay. That is okay to say. It's perfectly within the bounds because you have not consented. Just even if you say I'm there by general appearance, all that would do was waive your in personam jurisdiction. It would not waive the subject matter jurisdiction. So don't get me wrong on that. Okay. But if I'm in that situation, I'm saying, Your Honor, this court is unfortunately is lacking subject matter jurisdiction over this matter. There is no individual withstanding bringing a verified claim that has properly given me notice. I have a right to face my accuser and to cross-examine my accuser. According to the citation or according to whatever has started this case, I'm being the plaintiff is the city of or the county of or the state of. I'm going to need to cross-examine that individual, as is my right. And the judge is going to look at you as like, well, we have jurisdiction. We can hear this. We're just going to go ahead and move on. All right. Be my guest, Mr. Judge. But you just lost judicial immunity. I just want to let you know that. And I have no problem letting them know. I say, hey, Your Honor, are you aware? I'm sure you're aware because you're supposed to be well-versed in all aspects of the law that if this court operates absent jurisdiction, you no longer have judicial immunity. Are you aware of that and you're okay with that?
And what does that mean for the judge?
It means that he can be sued personally. Okay. You can sue him, so he better have frickin' deep pockets because it's going to happen. It's the only way this changes.
I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure there's plenty of cases. Okay.
So let's talk about, these are case decisions. These are court decisions on what a void judgment is. Here's one right here. A void order may be attacked either directly or collaterally at any time. So let's talk about what that means. Under your local rules of procedure, the federal rules of procedure, you can file a motion to vacate a void judgment. That's what this means directly. But if you're doing that, it means you're going right back before the same judge. Why in the world would you want to do that? I don't want to be, this idiot couldn't figure out the first time. I don't want him on my case the second time, him or her. So I'm going to file my own lawsuit in another court, and I'm going to attack it collaterally. It's called a petition to vacate a void judgment. And you just talk about an examination of the record will show that there is no competent fact witness testimony on the record from somebody claiming damages that has standing that granted the court subject matter jurisdiction. Period.
So the first time you're defending yourself and the second time you're on offense.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you're going to go back and you're going to sue whoever was coming after you. So let's say if it's a city, happens all the time. So you're going to sue the city and I'm going to sue them for 4 times, maybe even 5 times the amount that they were trying to get from me. I'm going to make it hurt. I'm going to make it really hurt. Okay. Let me read a couple more of these things real quick and then we'll move on. A void judgment, as we all know, grounds no rights, forms no defense to take actions they're taken thereunder, and is vulnerable to any matter of collateral attack. No statute of limitations or repose runs on its holdings. The matters thought to be settled thereby are not res judicata. That means you can't go back and re-judicate. Does that sound right? Re-judicate the matter? And years later, When the memories may have grown dim and rights long been regarded as vested, any disgruntled litigant may reopen the old wound and once more probe its depths. And it is then as though trial and adjudication had never been. That was from the Supreme Court of Michigan.
That's great.
It says here, this was on a petition for a writ of certiorari, which is where they send that to the Supreme Court. It says it's an appropriate remedy to get rid of a void judgment, one which there is no evidence to sustain.
Southern Railway. Okay.
Okay. So now that we know what to do in that case, right? So if you're being dragged into one of these administrative courts, you're going to file your objections. You're going to object. You're going to object. You're going to object. Where is the witness? Who is claiming damages? Where are they? I have a right to face my accuser. I have a right to cross-examine my accuser. Where are they? Because I'm ready and able.
And the police officer that pulled you over
Nope.
doesn't count.
Nope. He is not a witness. He cannot be a witness. He is an employee of the exact organization that is prosecuting you. Can't do it. He's not a witness. You didn't harm him directly. He can prove no set of damages. Okay? Can't do it that way. So let's talk about what these laws really are.
So cases like this would also stand for these trespasses in the schools, wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All of it. Okay. And we're going to talk about this. Okay. Last week, we talked about bills of attainder. Do you remember that, Justice?
Mm-hmm.
Let me go here. Before I share this, Erica, do you know what a bill of attainder is?
I think so.
Go ahead. What do you think?
Give me a hint. There's a lot in the database. I'm learning a lot. Like
James fails to understand his mental capacity. Most people don't remember this stuff.
Back during the 1700s, when the founding fathers and the colonialists were getting fed up with the king would issue laws that would pass sweeping punishment as well. Okay. So basically it was a law that bypassed the judge and jury and you just went straight to execution. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I don't recall that one entirely.
Well, I'm going to give you the legal definition of what a bill of attainder is. Okay. It's right here. This is from Cornell Law School, right? law.cornell.edu. Love this website. This is I go here all the time. I love it. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It says a bill of attainder is a piece of legislation that declares a party is guilty of a crime. Bills of attainder allow the government to punish a party for a perceived crime without first going through the trial process. Bills of attainder in the United States are unconstitutional, as stated in Article 1, Section 9, Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution. Every single state has an article that prohibits bills of attainder. Every single one.
Which we talked about last week.
We did.
Which applies to the anniversary today of the January 6th detainees.
Okay, exactly. So courts have adopted a 3-part test to determine if a law or a code or statute functions as a bill of attainder. You want to read that first one there for me, Erica?
The law inflicts punishment.
Okay, number 2.
The law targets specific named or identifiable individuals or groups.
And then number 3.
Those individuals or groups would otherwise have judicial protections.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? So what does that tell you right there? What does that tell you? Okay, while that's there, I'm going to go over to another page and I'm going to pull up. That's not what I wanted. I'm going to pull up the federal law. Okay. U.S. Code. We're going to go to Title 18, Crimes and Criminal Procedure. And let's just look at one right here. Let's go to civil disorders, because I believe that some of these people in the J6 are being prosecuted under this. Okay. So this is Title 18 U.S. Code 231, civil disorders. Talks about whoever does this to another person, the application of making a firearm or explosive or this or that or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Right here under the number 3, it says whoever commits or attempts to commit any act to obstruct, impede, or interfere with any firearm, blah, 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 or in commerce or the conduct or performance of any federally protected function shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 5 years or both.
There's a punishment.
Boom. So what is this then?
A bill of attainder?
You got it. But wait a second. It's right here. It's on the books. This is a federal law. I thought the Constitution prohibited this, according to this, right? It's unconstitutional. So how is this here?
It's interesting, isn't it? How old is this code?
Let's see, when was this published? 1994. Originally 1968.
So this is without a trial? Like it's saying
What happens is
I'll be fined.
they will still give you the semblance of a trial. Like they'll say you're gonna be afforded a trial by jury, but it's a bill of attainder. It describes what the punishment is. It's also known as a bill of pains or penalties. Okay, this is a great case right here. In Nixon v. Administration of General Services, the court determined that punishment for the purposes of bills of attainder will be determined by considering whether the statute would historically be viewed as punitive, whether the statute, viewed in terms of burdens and severity, can reasonably be said to be further non-punitive purposes. Was that a congressional intent for the statute to further punitive goals?
Well, you don't even have to wonder. It says it right there that if you do it, then here's your fine and here's what's going to happen.
And in case you're wondering what some people are like, well, what does punitive mean? Punitive are awarded in addition to actual damages. That's what it means. Punitive damages are considered punishment and are typically awarded at the court's discretion when the defendant's behavior is found to be especially harmful. Okay? Uh-oh. You mean to tell me somebody has to have actual damages and the legislature can't go ahead and say, well, you're guaranteed these punitive damages? Here's the problem with that. If you go back to any one of these here, let me see if I can find one that talks about fines. Oh, let me go to 1341. That's a good one because it's mail fraud. It's one of my favorites. So this one here says, such person shall not be fined more than $1 million or imprisoned not more than 30 years or both.
Wow. For mail
So
fraud?
if they're fined that $1 million, who gets that money?
Yeah.
The person that's claiming the mail fraud.
No.
No?
There
Government?
you go. The government gets this $1 million. This doesn't go to...
If you commit mail fraud.
Yeah. So if I committed mail fraud and I'm convicted of it, I can be fined up to $1 million. Who gets that money? This is a bill of attainder, people. Unfrickin' constitutional. And that's one of the things that I would do is I would attack that. Okay? Chris, judges aren't going to read anything, okay? I hate to tell you, when you start studying the law as it's written and understanding what the supreme law is, which is the common law, that's what's written in the Constitution is not the supreme law. That was laws at the time. It was just like, this is common sense, but we know people are going to be stupid, and so we're going to tell them what they can and can't do. That's what the Constitution is. The Constitution is a contract, which is why it's required that anyone who takes public office, either elected or appointed, is required to take an oath to the Constitution. Now they're bound by contract. That's what all of those laws and statutes are for. It's to govern their activity,
Right.
not the activity of you and me. As long as what we're doing doesn't infringe on anyone else's rights or infringe on their right to acquire and possess property, there's nothing that can be done. But then they started mingling into those crimes. They started taking common law crimes like assault and battery is a common law crime. Murder is a common law crime. I mean, it's just common freaking sense. Good people just don't do that.
Right. Right.
But of course, you're going to have those people who are going to. So they have to be prosecuted. But there was never, ever supposed to be sentencing guidelines, ever. It was always supposed to be determined on the severity of the crime. So this is how we start to defeat this, people. We start fighting these judgments. We start petitioning the court to vacate the judgment because, one, the statute is unconstitutional. It constitutes a bill of attainder. Two, this court had no subject matter jurisdiction. They're looking in the record. There's no testimony from a competent fact witness that had standing to bring this claim against me.
Okay.
Make sense?
Makes sense.
You were going to say something, Justice?
I was going to say, so I know they're still looking for legal representation and stuff January 6th. I feel like we should try to share this information with them.
Yeah. I mean, again, if I would do if I didn't have to work for a living, if I didn't have to support my family by working for another company, if I just had money in the bank,
Right,
and all
right.
I could do, I'd take every single one of their cases and I would petition the Supreme Court to vacate those judgments.
Right.
Doesn't matter if it's criminal or civil.
Right. We can share it with their legal teams or whatever.
Anything.
I'll try to find out.
They're not going to do anything, okay? Because they're represented by members of the bar. They're part of the problem. They're not going to do anything. They're just not.
Yeah.
But here's another little tidbit that I learned, and we'll spend some time on this down the road. What do you guys know about a power of attorney?
It's someone that has authorization to speak or sign on your behalf over you or your trust or estate if given to them. Correct.
Did you know every state has a uniform power of attorney law? Here in Utah, we have one, and it allows there's a contract that you would, again, no court, no one else can override your right or power to contract. So let's say, Erica, I choose to come to you and say, Erica, I'm going to enter into a contract and I'm going to allow you to represent me in purchasing real estate and buying cars and doing all these things. Oh, in addition, you can also litigate cases for me. Did you guys know you could do that through a power of attorney?
You had mentioned that once.
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, it's there. And I looked it up under Utah law and I found it. I found they even give you the contract language. It's all right there. And then you could just say, yeah, this individual is authorized to instigate or defend me against litigation, civil or criminal.
That's the beautiful thing that I'm discovering as I'm studying trust law is that no one has the authority to interfere with a private contract.
Nope. And that's why, again, I don't discredit anything like the private trusts. They're a great thing, right? Because you're right. It's like if you and I enter into a contract, as long as it's a valid and legal contract, I should say lawful contract, as long as it's valid and lawful, like there's nothing in there, like I'm not paying you money to go rob a bank, right?
Right.
As long as it's valid, who can interfere with that? No one.
No one.
No one can. Then that's the point we're trying to make. This is what I want to try and educate people. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I do this show, is so I can get this out there. I've had some people reach out to me on Telegram. I'm trying to help them. There's an individual right now in Iowa who's being railroaded through an administrative court No one withstanding has brought the claim before the court. So I'm trying to educate him on what to do because they're threatening his liberty. They're threatening to throw him in jail.
Mm.
It's a joke.
What's
They're trying to
what's the charge?
They're trying to charge him with some type of a ridiculous felony where all he did was take a piece of paper and put it on the inside of his windshield that covered his VIN number.
Oh my goodness, grasping at straws there.
Yeah.
Wow.
You absolutely have a 100% right to your privacy. And
the VIN number is connected to your license plate, so that's a ridiculous charge.
Yeah. My daughter, she just turned 16 last week. So I taught her what to say. I said, sweetheart, please don't get pulled over by a police officer. Don't speed. Don't do stuff like that. But if you get pulled over by a police officer, here's what you're going to say. The cop's going to walk up to your window. He's going to say something to the effect of, do you know why I pulled you over? Or I pulled you over because of this. Or he's going to ask you some kind of question. You can say one of two things. You can say, number one, I don't answer questions.
I don't answer questions.
Or you can say, can anything I say be used against me? Yes or no?
Yes.
And if he says, well, yes, great. I choose to remain silent.
Right. And he will say yes. He has to.
He has to. He has to say yes. He's because he's committing, or he's instigating an investigation, and he's trying to find incriminating things. They all have most of them have body cameras now. I know this because I work with law enforcement. Most of them have body cameras. They're recording the entire event. It is okay for you to pull out your cell phone and record it. Do it. But my favorite line is, I don't answer questions. You know what? And again, if the officer says, sir, step out of your car, I say, I'm happy to. Show me the warrant.
Now, are you detaining me or am I free to go?
Yeah. Unless and until you can produce a warrant that grants you authorization to search me or my car, and it must be specifically enumerated in that warrant. The Fourth Amendment is very clear. You cannot be searched or seized without a warrant under oath or affirmation, right? The warrant must be signed under oath or affirmation, and it must particularly state the person or things to be seized.
But they do it all the time. They'll pull you out. So it's
all the time.
It's a court battle because they pull you out and they take you to jail, and then you've got to battle them in court.
And they even do these. There's an individual in California where they wrote up a bogus warrant and said, search everything. That's not how that works. It's not how any of this works. This is why what has happened, you guys, is, and listen, I'm not saying I'm not a hypocrite here because I didn't know this either. Right. They have done a great job of educating us that we do not have any recourse unless we go to an attorney. The attorneys, the bar association, they are the problem. They are what they have taken our beautiful justice system and turned it upside down on its head. And they're like, hey, this is a great cash cow.
Yes.
We're going to get money for prosecutors. We're going to get money for defense attorneys. We're going to get money for judges.
And payoffs.
And I would add to that, James, too, that yes, they are a major problem. But I would say the bigger problem is our ignorance. Because unless you know what your rights are, you don't have any.
You don't have rights.
So how can there are always going to be evil people who are trying to take advantage of you, who are trying to destroy everything. But it can't happen if all of us are aware and call them out on it every single time. So I love that you're providing this education, and the more that people learn it and know it, I mean, can you imagine what's the cop going to think when every single person they pull over starts saying, I don't answer questions?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure you're referring to that video that was put out recently where really, I don't answer questions. Okay. Have a good day.
Yeah.
You too. Thanks for seeing you. Bye.
Well, I've seen more of it in the last 2 years. It seems the police are getting educated because I've seen easier communication between, a person and police officer more often. When 2 years ago, it was this whole common law, 20-minute, education for the police officer, and you had to know what you were talking about. So
like there was there's an individual, his name is Paul Enslaved. he's a good dude. He put up a video that was like 20, 30 minutes long about how he was detained. And he talked to, he had Supreme Court cases, how he has a lawful right to travel in his automobile wherever he wants, without a license, without a license plate, all those things.
Right.
And he was detained for 30, 45 minutes. Who's got that?
If you research it, there's 30-something cases from the Supreme Court that state that.
Oh, yeah.
So
again, it goes back to common freaking sense, right? Mm-hmm. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that every man is created equal and are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, namely life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or in this case, the possession and the acquisition and possession of property. Okay? So
freely.
You have a right to go where you want and do what you want, as long as it doesn't infringe on someone else's rights or their property. This is a good question from Etane. A contract cannot allow you to sign away your rights. You're correct. You cannot sign away your rights. It's not how it works. Again, unalienable. They can never be taken away.
But can't you trade them in and waive them for a privilege?
Sort of.
Because that's what happens when you sign your driver's license application, right?
Sort of.
You've waived your right to travel for the privilege of having the license.
Sort of. It's, again, that's one of the things I want to dispel real quick too. Just because you have a driver's license does not mean you do not have an unalienable right to travel. And it does not mean you've waived that right. It's merely a scheme, right, that the state uses to generate money. Mm-hmm. Same thing like with every year you get a registration notice on your vehicle or your car. Right. Pay a fee to re-register. You don't have to do any of that stuff. But I'm here to tell you, you don't. You're going to be harassed every single day, 20 times a day. Who wants to do that? And until we get back to where we're supposed to be, that's where we are. So I'm like, I'm going to pick my battles, right?
Right.
So I don't have a driver's license because I have to have one. I have one because I use it as identification. I also have my passport. I have that too. So I register my car, my truck, not because I have to, but because I don't want to be harassed by every road pirate with a badge and a gun who's like, oh, here's another one of those sovereign idiots. Mm-hmm. Right? I was like, hey, newsflash, moron, you're a sovereign too, but you just don't know it. Right? I want to educate people, and I want to do that the right way, and I'll fight the battles in the courts. So there's a good question here. Well, that's not the one. This one. Bug in the Garden says, be free situation with all the documents filed and still being railroaded. It's going to happen. Okay. These courts, these judges, these prosecutors, they are so ingrained to doing what they're doing, how they've done it for as many years as they have. They think they're invincible. It's a gamble. To them, it's a risk. All right. Well, you might have recourse against me, but they're gambling that you don't have the money to go hire an attorney, or an attorney is not going to take the case anyway because the attorney's dumber than a box of rocks and doesn't know what the real law of the land is.
And they're not fighting for you because they're best friends with the judge anyway.
An attorney is not, and here's the thing, guys, an attorney has no fiduciary duty to you. Fiduciary meaning they must do what's in your best interest. They have zero duty to you. They owe their entire allegiance and everything to the Bar Association.
The Bar Association, yeah.
Period. So in Brett's situation, to answer your question, Bug in the Garden, in Brett's situation, he's going to get railroaded. He's going to get railroaded. Let it happen. There's two things you can do. Now, if your liberty's at stake, what I say you do, file the paperwork in there, and then get your butt over to a federal district court and file a collateral suit to stop that. Get an injunction. Get something from that federal court. File a petition for a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction. File a motion for a preliminary injunction. Get that federal court to tell that stupid state court, what the crap are you doing? Knock it off. That's what you do. Okay? Guys, we are just a little past an hour. I've been talking my head off, and I feel like it's about to explode. What have any parting thoughts? Anything you guys want to throw in real quick?
It's great info, James. Thank you, for sharing this with people, and we'll continue on. I'm always
Mhm.
happy to learn, and I'm one of those people that have to hear it repetitively, as James knows. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of people out there like that. So,
Yeah.
we all need to have patience with one another, people that are entering the game and people that are seasoned, and help each other along.
Yeah.
I've been doing this with James for almost 2 years now, and there's still
Wow.
things that I just don't remember. It's
Yeah.
just not my wheelhouse. There's other things I'll learn at one time and never forget. So
Yeah.
we just need to have patience. And I love that, you're continuing this path and we're helping people.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion, I'm a doer. I'm an action taker. I want to just jump in and get it done. It's like, hey, this is all great to nice and know, but how do I do this?
Right.
If I'm in this situation, what do I do?
Right.
And there's a lot of people that need that help. And I wish I could help everybody that reaches out to me for help. I can't. I'm only one man. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I work full time. I'm doing what I can with the time that I have. It doesn't mean that if you reach out to me for advice on Telegram, if you say, hey, will you take a look at my motion to dismiss? I'm about ready to file. Anything you would add to it, I'm happy to do that. But I can't take your case and run with it for you. I wish I could. I hope my prayer to my Father in heaven above is that someday I will be blessed that I can do that, where I can help people. And this, in my mind, this is why I'm here. This is why God put me on this planet. This is like, hey, you read things and you retain them fairly well and you understand them fairly well. Use that knowledge to help your fellow men and your fellow women. And that's what I want to do. So,
And
Ian,
you're doing it great. And so let me just interrupt you real quick, since it's in my thought. And I had asked earlier about where people go to find this. So Dr. Graves' course, How to Win,
yes,
and Jurisdictionary. Explain about those real quick for people. So I'm going to give them a place to go and study on their own,
good,
right?
good. Yeah. So howtowinincourt.com. That's Dr. Graves' course, Jurisdictionary. You'll see him on Telegram listed as Jurisdictionary. It's everything from start to finish. How the courts work, how they operate, what's a proper pleading, how do you file papers into a court, how do you move the court, all of that stuff. It talks about justice courts, district courts, appellate courts, the Supreme Court, all of that process, evidence, how to put things into evidence, depositions, all of it. You need to know that. It's important to know that stuff. Howtowinincourt.com. There's a link on our Telegram channel. I believe Justice will put a link in the description box below this video. Excuse me, I'll have that. Second thing is I need everybody, if you haven't already, to go to our Rumble channel and subscribe. Once we hit 100 subscribers, we'll be able to do live streams on Rumble. I'm really excited about that. You guys know how I feel about the YT. Big YT. I'm not a fan, as you guys know. Unfortunately, we're stuck there until we can get over to our alternative platforms. So,
well, we do live stream. This stream also goes to Cloud Hub.
and Cloud Hub, yes.
Right. So it's always on YouTube and Cloud Hub, but we've already had some videos taken down by something, whatever we said in passing, and then we have to remove it and then put it back up. But Cloud Hub doesn't do any kind of censoring, and neither does Rumble, from what I understand at this point. So we do want to be able to stream to 3 at the same time. So we're focused on Rumble right now.
Yeah. So real quick, I'm going to put this up from Ian. He talks about a plea bargain. Ian, even if you take a plea bargain and the court was absent subject matter jurisdiction, you can have that bargain vacated. Okay. The court the bottom line is the court has to have jurisdiction. It has no authority to act unless the record shows there is a injured party, someone withstanding, where the court can grant them relief. That's it. Okay. Anything in parting real quick before we go, Erica?
Nope. Bills of attainder and subject matter jurisdiction. That's it.
There you go. Like I said, I mean, I'm not trying to bring people off of whatever wagon they're on. I'm not saying private trusts aren't the right way. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying I want to empower you to win, and I want to tell you the ways that and I know this works. because the man I learned it from, Richard Cornforth, has been doing this for 30 plus years, and he's gotten hundreds of cases and judgments vacated. Hundreds.
And he has a great website too. It's
Yes.
richardcornforth.com.
Okay. Real quick, Ian, the four corners, the four pillars of jurisdiction: plaintiff, defendant, in personam jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction. Those are the four. And then subject matter jurisdiction is comprised of a verified complaint under the statute or the common law cause of action, and competent witness testimony from a fact witness who has standing. So, okay. Maybe next time we have you, Erica, we'll see the your colorful picture in the background.
Well, whenever it's rowdy downstairs, that's when I move up here.
That makes sense. I do like the world picture though. I'm not dissing on the world picture. So, yeah, Chris, we'll put the link to the Rumble account in the description box. It's also on our Telegram channel as well. So
yeah, you did put the link in Telegram earlier today, so it's in there.
Yep. All right. With that, everybody, enjoy your weekend. Until then, we might have an episode next Friday. I might have some things going on. I don't know. If not, I will see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, see ya.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye everybody.